shall we go ahead?
Yes.
All right, well, welcome everyone. I'm delighted to have you all here with us. This is a Sausalito Library program. It's the first program that I've done for the library in probably 6 months, and also the first one on Zoom. So having studied lots of other people's program moderation, I hope to aspire to the level that I've seen from others, but apologize in advance if anything goes amiss. Tonight we have with us Superintendent Itoco Garcia of the Sausalito Marin City School District to provide a school unification update. As I said, our program is sponsored by the Sausalito Library. And before I introduce Itoco.
Oh, I don't know if my internet got funny there, but you froze for a moment.
Okay, great. We do have another program coming up a week from Wednesday. It is also on Zoom at 7 o'clock, so it's October 14th. And we'll have a talk from Alex Shaffrin, PhD. He's the author of The Road to Resegregation, Northern California and the Failure of Politics. The title of his talk is going to be The Marin Paradox, Liberalism and Racial Separation. Alex is a Marin native. He recently returned to San Anselmo after a stint in the UK as a lecturer at the School of Geography at the University of Leeds. And there's a link to RSVP to the program on the Sausalito Library website. You'll also find it within the Sausalito Currents e-newsletter from the city of Sausalito. As far as tonight's program, we'll start with a presentation from Itoco, then we'll follow that with the Q&A time. And I've gotten lots of questions from people through the RSVP form, but there may be time for more. I think it's a question of the stamina of Dr. Garcia and of the audience. And one nice thing about Zoom is that you're not rude if you just disappear. It's not like getting up and having to open the door and go out. So that provides a nice window for us to go longer if everyone is still benefiting from a Q&A session. For questions that people want to ask during the program, there should be a button on the bottom of your screen for chat, and you can ask questions in the chat window. I'll keep an eye on those questions, and then I'll be the moderator and ask them to Itoco when we get to the Q&A period. So one other thing to add is that I am recording this program so that we will have it for folks who were unable to make it and are looking for an update on school unification. So let me introduce Itoco and let's get started. Itoco Garcia has been the superintendent of the Sausalito Marin City School District since June 2019. He grew up in unincorporated Mill Valley and attended Mill Valley Public Schools. He went to UC Berkeley for both his undergraduate degree and for his doctorate in education. He also holds a Master of Arts degree from Fresno State University. Itoco's professional career includes 20 years of experience working as a teacher and administrator at public schools in the Bay Area. And I recently began working with Itoco on a project to overhaul the unification section of the school district website. And I have to say that as a relative outsider, I've been amazed by the level of complexity of the unification process, the amount of community involvement and the effort and dedication that Itoco is bringing to the project. And by my tally, so far in 2020, Itoco has led or participated in at least 29 board, task force, advisory group, and town hall meetings with a total duration of 74 hours. So I think it's safe to say that he's comfortable with the Zoom format at this point. So please join me in welcoming Superintendent Itoco Garcia.
Thank you so much, Abin, and thanks again for giving us this opportunity to share our message and communicate with the wider community. I know that people interface with things in different ways, and I think the first thing to note is that we have been working on unification together as a community basically since September of 2019. And this is far from an individual effort. We had our first town hall meeting around the desegregation order in September of 2019. And in that meeting, we put out the call to form work groups for interested citizens and members of the school community to actually work on unification. And that resulted in over 70 people working together to create recommendations. And the unification committees from both the Sausalito Marin City School District Board and the Willow Creek Board were formed in that time frame. And those individual committees began to meet together jointly very early on in the process. I think our first meeting was October of 2019. And I do think it's really important to note that actually both of our schools, both of our organizations, Willow Creek and the Sausalito Marin City School District, passed resolutions around unification, actually even prior to the settlement agreement with the Attorney General being announced. And so that we as two community educational organizations have been committed to this journey of unification, really since within my first couple of weeks on the job. And those unification committees that started out as separate committees from two different boards, we at some point in meeting jointly decided to rename ourselves the Unification Task Force because we didn't feel like the Willow Creek Committee and the Sausalito Marin City Committee struck the right tone around unification. And we really co-planned and worked through every little issue, topic, presentation, town hall, board meeting, recommendation, idea that was put forward by the community together. And working together in that way broke down a lot of barriers and built a lot of wonderful trust and collaboration around the topic of unification. And so in that spirit, I want to invite my fellow Unification Task Force member and Willow Creek board member, Lexi Musalam, to join and just share from her perspective a little bit about the process that we went through before I ramble on with a bunch of different details and events that we've engaged in over the past year. Welcome, Lexi. Thanks for joining us tonight.
Thanks, Dr. Garcia. Well, I joined the Unification Task Force in early March of 2020. So I haven't been there since the beginning, but I can say that when I joined, it was apparent that there was a great spirit of collaboration in the Unification Task Force between the Willow Creek board members that were on, which were myself and Dr. Johanna Vandermolen and Alina Monder, and Dr. Garcia, and then the trustees who are current trustees, Caroline Van Alst and Deborah Turner. And we just started working through the issues, broke them down into issues like curriculum of the new school, how will the new school be governed, who will be the oversight body, how will everyone in the community from Sausalito, Marin City, Willow Creek, Bayside MLK, how will everyone, parents, children, stakeholders, community members, have a voice in what choices are made on issues like curriculum, governance. There's going to be issues with union, staffing, personnel. There's just a lot of different variables to putting this great school together and combining the resources we have. Obviously, there's budget, financial. So we just started working through those, and And it was a really collaborative experience. I think I speak for the other members of the Unification Task Force when I say that we worked well together. We developed a fondness for one another. And it takes, listening and speaking and exchanging ideas. And we didn't always agree, but and we certainly came at it from different viewpoints, but we really worked together to narrow down the big issues that have to be decided, and then the variables, the possibilities for each of the issues. So if you're coming to the joint board study sessions or the study sessions that the district's having, or the study sessions that Willow Creek's board have had, you'll see that there's a lot of give and take on various ideas for what we choose for each big component. And so I'm sure Dr. Garcia is going to go through those.
Yeah, thank you, Lexi. I want to also appreciate and honor the work of all the members of our task force, including Alina and Johanna and Deborah Turner and Caroline Van Alst, our trustees from the district that rounded out the task force. And it was a lot of work. Abbott, I was impressed by your summation of how many Zoom meetings I've been doing. I would add to that 26 Unification Task Force meetings from September to June. Now 6 town hall meetings, well over 50 hours of in-person meeting time, plus the Zoom meetings that you so ably had categorized in the introduction. 2 different community surveys, and really 2 deadline extensions of when we were going to have a finalized plan. The first was in January and the second was in March. The great thing about, I think, where we are as a community and where we are in the unification process is all of those meetings and all of that work and all of that feedback from the community, from students, from staff, from parents, really laid the groundwork for some historic joint board study sessions that Lexi just referenced. And this Wednesday, we will have meeting number 8 of a joint board study session. And this is kind of the process where now the work that the Unification Task Force did together is being done with both full boards. And so we are, sometimes revisiting topics on more than one occasion. But I think what's really wonderful is that we have used a consensus building process throughout. We used it in the Unification Task Force before we ever brought anything to either of our boards. And we've used that in the joint board study sessions. And that has allowed us to really build consensus on some of these very important aspects that Lexi referenced, that we kind of broke down as being essential for creating a unified world-class school that is the top choice of all of our families here in the 94965. And some of the early, really, I think, positive collaborative work that we did together was just making community agreements around how the joint study sessions were going to go. And some of the early things that we were able to accomplish were really building consensus around what the curriculum of a unified school might look like. And in particular, what we were going to conserve from that are working well at both schools. In particular, project-based learning and a focus on STEAM and arts integration, and really allowing teachers to be the experts and administrators to be the experts in driving and collaboratively developing the curriculum for the unified school. So we're really sort of excited by that work, as well as the contributions of the curriculum work group that was convened. We have adopted sort of their 6 pillars as as an overarching framework of how the curriculum for the new school will go, and have made some wonderful agreements on, how we can take the best practices from both schools around English language learners, or intervention, or accelerated instruction, or how to work with students with IEPs, and how to move towards really a wonderful full inclusion model for students that have resource. One of the sort of silver linings to COVID-19 is we're actually piloting that full inclusion model right now in our district, even with the kids that are in a special day class. And I think the collaboration at the Unification Task Force level, at the board level, is helping create collaboration in some very important other areas. So some other areas that we've been able to reach consensus is around facilities and grade span configuration. So we've made an agreement, at least in the short term, that in order to accommodate all of the students together, that we will have sort of an upper campus and a lower campus, and that students from kindergarten through 5th grade, all of the students in the district will attend school at the Sausalito campus. And then all of the middle school students and any pre-K and TK students will attend school here in the Marin City campus, on the Marin City campus, pardon me. Some other really, I think, important consensus building that we've been able to do is around the timing of unification. And we have agreed that we will open a fully unified school for the 21-22 school year. And that means that we actually really need to kind of finalize our 10,000 foot plan here, our outline, and then turn it over to teachers and principals and the unification work groups to really color in the details and fill out some of the minutia and fine-grained day-to-day operational details of what is the calendar going to look like, and what is the bell schedule going to look like, and what exactly are the details of things like the name of the school and the logo, and to uniform or not to uniform, and if we uniform, what color will it be? We really want to trust our staff to work out those fine-grained details, but provide some guidance at a high level. And a few of the other things that I think that we've really been able to successfully build consensus on our core values and our vision and our mission. And I just want to take a moment to share some of that work. It's been an honor really to do this work and to be able to come home to a community that provided me a lot of enrichment and a lot of guidance, and a lot of frankly we're so scared to use the word love, but a lot of love, a lot of care, in some really critical parts of my own youth development, and to develop a joint statement from both boards about what the core values of this unified school will be, has been amazing. And those core values are that the school will be inclusive, and that we are curious, open-minded, generous, humble, and empathetic. That a core value of our school, of our unified school, and of our community is that we will remain optimistic, that we are hopeful, proactive, resilient, and creative, that we are collaborative, that we are flexible and committed to teamwork, that a core value is making a difference, that we are dedicated to achieving transformative outcomes for our children, for our family, for our staff, for our community, and that we are accountable, that we are ethical, dependable, and trustworthy, and that really living these values will guide our current and future board towards and through unification. It'll guide how we continue to build consensus and work with objections. It'll guide the leadership, administration, and outcomes of our unified community. We've been able to really build a lot of consensus around our why, around our purpose, of who we serve, that we are a district of choice that serves all pre-K through 8th grade students and families and the greater 94965 community, especially those with the greatest need for the opportunity to learn and lead. And that we are in the business of creating flexible, open-minded, critical thinkers who reach their full potential and have equitable access to the larger world while increasing academic, social, and emotional well-being and achievement for all. That we are in the business of providing a nurturing, caring, enriching environment that integrates the natural and cultural resources that surround us. That we incorporate programs focused on equity and social justice into our core curriculum, meaning math, English, science, social studies, and that we infuse the arts and sciences into all of that core content. And that we do that with a diverse, inclusive student population, that we validate and affirm all races, languages, cultures, abilities, identities, and religions, that we incorporate an arts integrated and project-based approach throughout our curriculum, that we hold high expectations for all students and families, that we hire teachers and staff who are passionate about education and support the diversity of our students and community, and that we partner with and integrate community and state organizations to support our students and family in a nationally recognized community school model. That we really engage our entire community with the school as the center of community life. That we provide a holistic education, including academic curriculum and basic life skills, which are critical for children to thrive and to flourish. That we are recognized for small class sizes, that we have a smaller than average teacher to student ratio, and that our core values really guide our policies, our leadership, and our decision making. And we also built consensus around our reason for being, our reason that we exist, to instill a love of learning in our children and support them to be curious and flexible thinkers, confident in their individuality, their community, and their ability to create a safer and more just world. And I think that along with curriculum, I mentioned that we built consensus around how we're going to do our English language development program, how we'll do our special ed curriculum, what our multi-tiered systems of support will look like, and how we'll provide intervention and instructional coaching, what accelerated learning will look like, how we will ensure that all the students that graduate from our school district are well positioned to get into honors and AP courses when they go to high school, and that we have an amazing after school program curriculum that includes enrichment and athletics, and a system for monitoring student progress and communicating with parents. And I can't stress enough, the vision is really to have one school on two campuses, that we have a pre-K through 8th grade approach to student growth, engagement, and enrichment, and that this two-campus model is really advisable due to our current facilities constraints and considerations due to the global pandemic. I think we're all hoping that we can open regular school and not worry about social distancing and masks and sanitation stations and health checks and staggered arrival and dismissal and dedicated bathrooms and meal service only in the classroom and dedicated recess time by the start of the next school year. But we just don't know. We committed that long-term, the facilities committee and work group will continue to investigate the viability of a one campus or a two campus model, and that we will really consider community building trust, efficiency, financial stability, and revenue in those considerations. As I mentioned, we did build consensus around the fact that this unified school will open for the 2021-22 school year. Some things that we need to finalize consensus building on are organizational structure and governance and staffing and budget. And I'm excited that we'll be taking a deep dive, and I really believe strongly that we will build consensus around organizational structure and governance in the next meeting, and that 2 weeks after this meeting, that we will have a consensus built around staffing and budget. And that will allow us to put forward a joint resolution about all of these details that we've built consensus around. And as I said, really turn it over to our teachers and our administrators and our unification work groups to kind of color in those outlines that we've set forward as a board. And I think one of the other beautiful commitments that has come is that we'll continue to have board study sessions on different topics, even after unification is over, so that, new board members and members of the community that are interested really deeply in exploring a lot of these topics, that we'll have the opportunity to do that. If it's not apparent already, I want to state explicitly that I'm also very committed to maintaining this level of community engagement, to continuing to have town hall meetings, to continue to survey the community and staff and students around what's working and what's not working, so that we can engage in a cycle of continuous improvement and refine and improve what we're doing as a unified school. I think we have a very strong commitment to creating a world-class school that has top-tier academics, that has advanced mathematics and science and technology, and that we also are turning out students that are incredibly well-rounded, that have an opportunity to be amazing visual artists and dancers and actors and playwrights and production managers, and that people understand that there is a wide array of ways that we can contribute to the growth of our society, of this community, and of humanity in general. And I'm really excited by the prospect of the career pathways that we've been creating for our students. We have a pathway to become a teacher and come back and teach in our schools, hopefully in the next few years. And we have a pathway, an administration of justice pathway that we've created, and a tech pathway that we've created. And the idea is to continue to expand our community school model and continue to leverage partnerships that we have in the community and out in the big wide world, in the corporate world, that will allow students from this community to really have an unprecedented access to whatever they and their families dream for their lives. And that in particular, that they're set up to be very successful, whatever high school they choose. I think I'll take a pause there and see if, Lexi, if you think I've missed anything, or maybe we can transition to any clarification, Abbott, that you might have around anything that I've offered, and then open it up for Q&A.
I don't think you missed anything. I think if people probably have questions, I would think about the specifics, and so we could start talking about those issues.
Thank you.
Yeah, we could move on to the questions, or if you wanted to add anything else before that, up to you.
I think maybe I would just follow up and say, as I said, we have another joint study session on Wednesday. It's open to the public. Anybody that's interested, I'd encourage you to attend, and we'll probably have at least one more after that to finalize it. But we are getting very close here. We're getting close to having an outline, and it is our commitment to have a final plan that we approve in December, and that we really actively communicate out to our families and the community by January of 2021. We're very committed to making sure that people are informed, and that they have all the information they need to make sound educational decisions for their family. And once the final plan is approved in January and communicated out to the community, that we'll spend the rest of the upcoming school year really working hard on implementation, making sure that the district's local control accountability plan, which we need to have for the next 3 years, 21 through 24, is for 500 kids and one school on 2 campuses, and that resources and programming is really, really tightly coupled with the available resources that we have in the district for all of our kids, and that, we're focusing on onboarding new staff and getting everybody up to speed with the different collective bargaining units, and understanding the benefits, the health benefits and retirement benefits that will be available to a whole new group of staff members. And that, we're really committed to creating a school that Sausalito and Marin City can be proud of, that our families choose, that other families in Marin fight to get into, and that, have outcomes both academically, socially, and emotionally for all of the kids in our community, regardless of background or income or race or language or immigration status, that rivals the highest performing schools in this county, in this state, if not supersedes them.
Okay.
And I'd just like to dovetail a quick word on that, and that is to say that I know that there's a Willow Creek board meeting next Tuesday. I think it's next Tuesday, and unification is discussed at every Willow Creek board meeting. So please come. I invite you. We all invite you to attend and have your voices heard. There's always an opportunity to speak on the subjects, that we're discussing. And so, it's important to both the district and to Willow Creek that the community participates in the process.
Absolutely. Yeah, and just to piggyback also, we have a regularly scheduled district board meeting on Thursday. So if you ever are, tired of Netflix, and you're trying to figure out stuff to do while you're quarantined, I just want to second Lexi's invitation to all of our meetings. We'll definitely be able to engage you for some hours.
All right, well, why don't we move on to the questions that I've gotten from people, and I'll also add, for anyone who joined a little later, I do have lots of questions that came in through the RSVP form, but you in the audience can also submit questions through the chat window. There's a button down at the bottom of your screen that should say chat with a little thought bubble, and encourage folks to send questions that way. There's also going to be an FAQ section on the Unification website that we're working on relaunching, and questions tonight that don't get answered or that aren't answerable yet, we will plan to include those in that FAQ section. So Itoco, I'll start with a first question that came up from a few different people. What do you see as the biggest challenges in the unification process, and maybe challenges from this point looking forward, and maybe challenges to what, how we got to this point?
I think the greatest challenges have really changed a lot over time. You'll hear trust, or you'll hear that the process is going too fast, or you'll hear that the process is going too slow, or you'll hear that there's not enough details, or you'll hear that people want to know more about what's going on. But I think realistically we're at a place where we have overcome a lot of those challenges in many ways, and I think that fine-grained detail that people are looking for is going to be coming, and is going to be coming very soon, and will be available for everybody to vet and provide feedback on long before families have to make final choices about their school decision for the 21-22 school year. And so I'm confident that we'll have the outlines as much of what I've outlined here tonight, and then the few things that are left outstanding, governance structure, staffing, budget, that will allow for all of those minute details that folks are asking for to then be worked on by teachers and principals. I think right now the greatest challenge has been presented by COVID-19. we're attempting to operate schools in a way that has never been done before. And there is a tremendous amount of fear in the world and in our community about COVID-19, about risk of infection, and about what that will mean for trying to unify our schools. And I think that, I want to invite folks to take a look at our protocols and what we've been doing. Both schools are now currently offering in-person programs. Bayside MLK is offering an in-person option for 100% of our students. We're the first school in the county to do so, and one of the first schools in the state. And right now, we have a little over 90% of our students coming for in-person learning. Willow Creek has opened also for in-person, for a smaller group of students that are struggling with distance learning. Some of the greatest challenges we're having right now are actually around technology and bandwidth on both campuses, and the number of students that have remained in distance learning, having stable access to the internet. And I think, one of the silver linings of being able to meet like this is we're actually getting and have gotten at many of our meetings over 100 participants, quite a high level of community engagement. I think Zoom sometimes makes it easier for families and parents and working folks to actually come to a meeting. You don't have to worry about getting dinner on the table and finding a babysitter, or bringing your kids with you. I mean, I always want to see more kids at our meetings. I think that we need to really work to remain student-centered. I think some of the challenges overcoming, the fact that sometimes parent or community members really want to center themselves in this plan. And really, I think it's important for us to all remember this is about the kids and what kids want. And this is about education, and it is about the well-being of our students and our families. And I think we need to really keep that at the center of everything we do and every conversation that we have. And I know that, this process can feel frustrating for people, but it's really important that we get it right. And then when we come out with a detailed plan, that we have the time to member check it with our community, with our parents, with our staff, with our kids, with our larger community. And that's what you're seeing now. We are so close, and I am going to be really excited to within the next few weeks really come out with a firm outline, and then as I said, by December and January come out with a highly detailed plan. What everybody wants to see. What are the days? What are the hours? What are the subjects? What's the enrichment going to look like? Who's going to be doing what? How much is it going to cost? How many teachers? How many paraeducators? How many administrators? And we are very close to getting there. And I think it's important for people to understand that we need to really do our due diligence on all of these things. And that even though we have built consensus on some of these things, that we're now working towards unanimity. And I think that's how I would like to answer that question. And Lexi, I don't know if you want to offer anything else there, but happy for you to chime in.
I have a couple thoughts. One is, I think there are two categories of challenges. One is what I would think of as the practical challenges, in the sense that, for example, curriculum is not a practical challenge, because we've gotten consensus about how the curriculum will look. And even at the town hall we had, gosh, I can't even remember, it was a few months ago, the respondents in the survey that Dr. Garcia did during the town hall, generally there was community agreement about the curriculum process and format. But things like, for example, putting all teachers in the union, and how will the Willow Creek teachers and certificated staff or classified staff, how will the professionals at Willow Creek be assumed into the union, and how will the seniority of those folks be treated as they get placed in step and column for benefits? That's a practical challenge, and there are ongoing discussions about that. There's a practical challenge around governance, and how do we have oversight of the new school in which everyone in the community feels invested. So then I would just say that there seem to be some emotional challenges, and I think that has a lot to do, in my opinion, with feelings of loss that people might have, that their school is going to be transitioning into a new thing, and they don't know how that's going to feel, and they know what they have now. And I think there's also emotional challenges in the district that communities have had experiences both with the district board and with the Willow Creek board, and they want to make sure that their interests and the interests of their children are going to be properly served by the new school. So there are challenges, but I feel like we are always really looking forward to how great this school is going to be, and that we have to think of ourselves as a larger we now. And so, yeah, I would say those kind of break down the challenges as I see them.
Thank you, Lexi. And, as you were talking, kind of brought up for me that, I would be remiss not to mention this incredible moment in history that we find our society in response to the murder of unarmed Black people in our country. And I think that, we are in a really emotionally raw space. And I think that people are committed to doing better, want to do better, and are trying to figure that out. And I think it's a tremendous opportunity for our unified school to help unify the whole 94965 and help build bridges and help people talk to each other and build a really deep and authentic community for all of the members of our school district and for our zip code. And I see it happening, these kinds of collaborations between the Sausalito city government and our boards and our districts and our libraries and the community services district and some of the other non-governmental organizations that work in our communities. We're doing some amazing things. We're doing some things that are getting recognized at a state level with the Marin City Cooperations team. These are programs that are designed to provide family support to students and parents and community members all across our district, regardless of what city that they write when they postmark something. And we were just named as one of the top organizations for community crisis response for COVID-19. And I think that that's emblematic of what this community can do when we are together and we are unified. And I think that is really a beacon that this unified school can help lead the way in continuing to grow and continuing to support the collaboration and the communication and the relationship building across our communities so that everyone has better outcomes.
Okay, I'll throw you a couple softballs now. What is the current enrollment at the two schools in the district?
A great question. Currently, we're at 115 students for Bayside MLK, and correct me if I'm wrong, Lexi, but the number I have in my mind is 356 for Willow Creek Academy. So close to 500.
Yeah, I think maybe it's around 370 now for this year at Willow Creek. I could be wrong.
Okay, and question came from a couple people. Where do we find the Zoom links for the board and joint board meetings, and also links to video recordings of the most recent meetings, which may not have been posted yet?
A wonderful question. I think one meeting we had a little technical difficulty, but all meetings are simultaneously broadcast on Facebook Live. So you can go to the Sausalito Marin City School District Facebook page, and you can find all of the meetings archived there. If you want to rewatch them, it's a pretty easy platform. They are also posted to the district website, but they're right up on Facebook. as soon as they happen, and they stay there. You can also find them on my superintendent Facebook page. I'm DOC Doc Garcia there on Facebook, and they're posted there as well. We always post Zoom links on the district website for upcoming meetings. And so I just direct you there to the smcsd.org, www.smcsd.org. There is a unification page, but there's also a school board page. And if you go to the school board page, there's a link there for all of our meetings. You can find them there as well. And that's really the best way to catch up if you've missed anything.
Also on the Willow Creek Academy website, there is a link to the Willow Creek board meetings that are also discussing unification at almost every meeting. Those are all being recorded now because of Zoom, and you can access them on the Willow Creek the Willow Creek website. I think it's under board or something. It's there.
Okay, next question. Will the unified school be a public school or a public charter school?
That's something that we're still building consensus around. Just, I know it's very semantical, and I don't even know if it matters to draw the distinction, but both of those organizational structures are considered public schools. I think the question maybe that people are getting at is, will it remain an independent charter school, or will it be a dependent charter school, or will it be a public school? I hate to use the word traditional, but that's I think the term that people understand. Will it be a public school in the traditional sense? And I think, what is probably at the heart of that question, and actually goes to governance. And that's one of the things that we will be building consensus around on Wednesday. And just so people understand the distinction, because I am here to inform folks. Really, the difference is that an independent charter school has its own usually appointed board, and is a separate legal entity from the school district. A dependent charter, while still a charter, is not a separate legal entity from the district and does not have its own appointed board. It is governed by the elected trustees of the school board. And obviously a public school in the traditional sense isn't a charter and is also governed by the publicly elected officials.
I think it's important for folks to know that in the Unification Task Force and also in the joint board study sessions, and I can speak to the Willow Creek board meetings, we've explored several different configurations. One was all traditional, as Dr. Garcia said, which would be have oversight by the publicly elected trustees. We explored the dependent charter, independent charter. Some of those ideas are still being discussed. But one of the other things we looked at was, what about having a hybrid school where you would have a traditional school with some dependent charter grades, and we looked at that for a while because it could take advantage of some funding that we might get for out of district students. So we have looked at different configurations, and they do relate very closely, to my mind, with governance.
Okay, here's a somewhat related question to your last point there. Will families who no longer live in the district but still attend Willow Creek Academy or Bayside MLK be able to stay?
Yes, unequivocally, yes. Under any of the configurations that we're considering. Just so people in the public understand, and sort of to connect the last comment that Lexi made, when you are a charter school and students come from out of district, you get about 70% of local control funding formula revenue. But just to reduce my academies a little, you get about 70% of the per pupil spending from that student's district of residence as a charter school. We have become a district of choice. And in years prior to this one, we were getting zero money if we accepted a student from out of district. But as a district of choice, we now get 25% of that LCFF revenue. And so that's a little bit of a trade-off there. The challenge, I think it's fair to say that a challenge, not the challenge, a challenge of a hybrid model or a challenge of an all dependent or independent charter model is that state law and ed code require a traditional public school option. You cannot force people to go to a charter school. And so if we go all charter, whether it's independent or dependent, or we have some all charter grades in a hybrid model, that means we would have to have an interdistrict transfer agreement for families that wanted to attend a traditional public school. And that has to be with a neighboring school district. So we would have to have an interdistrict transfer agreement in place with Mill Valley or Reed and Tiburon or Larkspur, Corte Madera. And so that presents a unique set of challenges in and of itself, and a unique set of opportunities, I think. And so I just want people to understand some of that nuance that is going into that decision and why that is one decision that we have yet to build consensus around. But I do think that we will be able to land that plane this week.
Okay. How will unification help the academic preparation of students?
I think tremendously, actually. Both schools are doing some very positive things in terms of academics overall and with different subgroups of students. Both schools have some best practices that are outperforming each other in certain areas with certain students. And this really gives us an opportunity to really maximize via teacher collaboration and planning, via efficiency. We can stop doubling positions and stop doubling contracts and really focus all of our resources on all of the kids. I think it has a tremendous upside for academic achievement and social emotional learning and well-being for all of our students, special ed students, English language learners, African-American students, and accelerated students who are ahead of the curve. We'll be able to differentiate instruction in some really meaningful ways, have some incredible enrichment and intervention, have an amazing after-school program that's available to all students in the community, so that we have art and music and dance and visual art, ballet, jazz, hip hop dance, instrumental music that is really available to all of our kids, both during the regular day and after school. And so students that are really interested in that kind of enrichment, would have the potential across our district to engage in their artistic discipline for as many as 3 hours in a day, if you consider the day to be 8:30 a.m. to 6 p.m., including after school care. We've gotten some wonderful support from the Shakur Foundation to support arts enrichment in the after school program. We have our ACES grant funding that we've all been relying on. And I am about to hit send on our application to become a state licensed childcare, which will allow us to access a huge amount of money for a school age program and after school to support this kind of programming. So I think some really incredibly exciting opportunities for kids and families. And then later for community engagement. One of the things that I think is just a cornerstone of doing these kinds of enrichment programs that span the regular day and span after school is student expositions, is dance and musical recitals, is theater productions put on by our students, visual art galleries put on by our students. I think that the Sausalito and the Marin City community that, you know, at least from my early childhood was always the heartbeat of art and music and culture in this county, can really re-engage in some beautiful and meaningful ways with student artists and with teaching artists. I have a tremendous vision of the Fall Arts Festival in Sausalito featuring a bunch of different student artwork and performances, and that, you know, theater productions and musical recitals become a way that even people who aren't parents or grandparents can really interact with and enjoy the school community.
Also, there's already a substantial amount of collaboration happening between the schools, for example, in math and other subjects. And so having a unified school where you have all of the teaching expertise in one place, where the teachers from, you know, who have previously been in two schools will now be on a day-to-day basis able to work with each other, professional development, I mean, you know, exchanging best practices. We've had a lot of discussion about being able to really develop the best practices of each school and continue to make those grow. And the other thing that unification will really help is just the simple fact that there will no longer be a competition for resources. Amen. And when there's no longer a competition for resources, all the resources that are available, and they're substantial in this district, will be going to the benefit of all students at one school, and that hoping to, you know, be able to have all of the things that Dr. Garcia listed, you know, that other schools have, but Willow Creek and Bayside MLK have not been able to have. So in terms like of athletics, I'm thinking of it like an athletic team, a formal athletic team, for example.
Another question, will the school district begin a preschool program?
Yes, we are absolutely committed to doing that. We have been working with all of the publicly funded preschool partners in the community, and I'm excited to start working with the private ones as well. Our goal is to really create universal pre-K for the 94965. I'm working with Community Action Marin. I'm working with Horizon Community School. I'm working with First Five. I'm working with the Child Care Commission. I actually recently applied to be on the county commission for pre-K as an appointed member. I think we have an opportunity here to do some amazing things in the realm of pre-K, and by becoming a school-aged, state-licensed childcare, that will open the pathway for us to become a pre-K state-licensed childcare. It was my great hope that we would be able to open a district-administered pre-K class this fall. I think it's more realistic that we will have at least one district-administered pre-K class next school year in the 21-22 school year for the unified school. But I'm really looking to continue to work in partnership with our community preschool partners. The reality is that there's not enough pre-K spaces available in our community for the number of preschool students that we have. And so we're very committed to first expanding those spaces and making sure that everyone has a space. Many people may not understand clearly, but opportunity and achievement gaps are in place in communities like ours by the time children are in kindergarten. Excuse me. And so offering a universal pre-K is perhaps one of the most high leverage things that we can do to make sure that every kid in this community enters school ready for school and on the most even playing field possible. It will also allow us to ensure that we're able to continue things like speech therapy or resource in an unbroken chain for students that need that from preschool to TK and kindergarten. And there's already an amazing collaboration happening between the preschool teachers in our community and our TK and kindergarten teachers. They are meeting in collaboration 2 Fridays a month so that we have some real vertical alignment between the academic, social, emotional programming that happens preschool, TK, and kindergarten. And we will be building out a data dashboard that will allow us to longitudinally track the efficacy of a curriculum and interventions from pre-K all the way through 8th grade. So we actually know that what we're doing has a positive impact, and also who we need to target from the earliest of ages.
All right, and I did get a follow-up question on that. Would the preschool address special needs children aging out of the regional centers?
That is, short term, that is precisely the goal for opening a district administered preschool program. We have some families that really, they get caught in a difficult choice. Many students with IEPs want an extra year of preschool. Those families feel like it's in the best interest of their students. But if they're school age and they elect to stay in preschool, they are electing to discontinue special education services. And it's a really, I can't imagine, I mean, I'm a parent, so I can imagine it. I don't have a special needs child, so I can't imagine that. And that's why we are so committed to opening a district administered pre-K program, because that will allow families who want to stay in preschool but need access to speech and language or need access to resource to be able to continue to get it and not have to make what I think is a decision that no family should have to make.
Okay. Request to talk a little bit about Measure P and how important it is that it passes.
Well, I would love to say a lot about Measure P and how important it is that it passes. But because I am here using district equipment, I am legally limited to sharing information. And so I think I can answer that question and do that. Give me just one moment.
Can I jump in while you're doing that, Dr. Garcia? Because
Please.
you said about the PK and the TK made me want to go back to a previous question about how unification will help the academic achievement in the district. And one of the things that that is apparent is that fundraising in this district from high dollar donors seems to have been lethargic. And the reason being that I think outside of this district, and frankly inside the district, we're looked at as a district that's in constant conflict. And so once we unify and we're all working together on this, what I think is going to be a school that's in the vanguard for a lot of reasons, I'm hoping that that will also attract, I think we're all hoping that that will also attract some big dollar donors and fundraising, and that will also obviously go towards the advancement of education in the district.
Thank you, Lexi. Yeah, I would even maybe strike an even more assertive and optimistic tone, is that I think it's beyond a hope. We have some commitments from some people to reinvest and refund in our community once we're unified. And so I think that's a very real thing. So thank you for asking the question about Measure P. Measure P is a general obligation bond that, if approved by voters, will authorize $41.6 million in bonds to be sold to improve our local schools. Measure P will modernize classrooms at both the Nevada Street and Phillips Drive campuses to provide students with safe classrooms appropriate to their age group and curriculum. Most importantly, it'll replace outdated portable classrooms with modern, permanent facilities. It'll keep classrooms and school buildings safe, healthy, and well-maintained by updating and improving utilities, heating, ventilation, and filtration systems. It'll provide maker spaces, robotics, video, and visual and performing art spaces to enhance learning opportunities. And also, very critical at this moment, improve classroom facilities at both campuses to provide the 21st century classrooms, including technology, wireless infrastructure, and flexible classroom furniture. We have engaged in a unification and integration process and have completed a study with our architect to improve school facilities at both campuses. The district believes a local bond measure can be effectively used to support this effort. Our local schools have given our students an excellent education for many years, and their facilities now need improvements that go beyond the district's annual budget. Funds would be used to make capital improvements across the district. I want to stress, this is a brick and mortar bond. None of it goes to district operations. None of it goes to salary or benefits or retirement. Students would benefit tremendously from Measure P by the replacement of outdated and deteriorating portable classrooms with modern permanent classrooms. It'll also fund the modernization of school support facilities and provide specialty classrooms like STEM classrooms, science, technology, engineering, and math classrooms. Measure P will also provide funding for the replacement and modernization of school facilities and infrastructure at both campuses. Measure P will help us get in compliance with applicable state building codes and regulations, including the Americans with Disabilities Act. We will have an opportunity to address the state's green building standards. It will help us improve our outdoor environmental education. It could daylight the creek on the Nevada Street campus to provide outdoor science education and opportunities for outdoor learning and hands-on project-based learning for students about our local environment. Measure P will also help our schools become energy efficient and include solar energy improvements. If Measure P fails, our district's capital projects will continue to go unimplemented, and the district will not be able to provide the improvements necessary to modernize school facilities. Literally, in some of our portables that are only supposed to be in place for 10 years, that are going on 25 years on both of our campuses, when it rains outside, it rains inside. Lastly, I want to be very clear about the costs of Measure P. The estimated tax rate for Measure P is $30 per 100,000 of assessed valuation. So not the retail market value of your home, not what your home appraises for, but the amount the county assessor has assessed your home value at. If you're like me and you're a homeowner in our county, I just received my Marin County property tax bill in the mail last week, and that assessed value is in the upper right-hand box of your property tax statement. So that can give you an idea, whatever your home is assessed at, however many hundreds of thousands of dollars, multiply that by 30. So if your assessed value is 100,000, then this would increase your annual property tax bill by $30 or $15 per tax bill. If your home is $300,000, it would be $90 or $45 per tax installment if you pay your installment. If you pay in 2 installments, like I think most of us do. If it's the medium home value in the 94965, which is a little over $700,000, it would increase your annual tax $210 per year or $105 per installment. All that information is available, and happy to share it with anybody that has an interest. We will have a Measure P tab up on the district website, and I think that's all I'm legally allowed to say.
Well done. All right, I just have a few more questions, and then we'll let you go. Would you be supportive of a transitional leadership structure for the first year of unification that includes the Willow Creek Academy board and shared leadership and voting power?
I think that's one of the issues that we're going to build consensus on. I'm in support of anything that will help this unification happen. I think there are some important things to consider. The California State Constitution and Ed Code actually prohibits publicly elected trustees from giving their voting power to somebody who's not publicly elected. And so I think there's a bunch of different kind of nuances that we need to work out. But anybody who's really interested in that topic, please come to our joint study session on Wednesday. We will be taking a deep dive there, and hopefully we'll be able to answer your question. But philosophically, I'm aligned towards doing whatever it takes to make this unification be successful, and for trying to figure out those pathways.
Okay. Can you say more about the efforts to bring the two communities together emotionally?
Yeah, thanks whoever asked that. You know, we were planning a series of community educational events that would allow for some of that healing in our community that I think that needs to take place. And you know, our inability to meet in person has hampered that a little bit, but it doesn't curtail our commitment at all. And I think that you know, like what you're offering next week is actually a wonderful opportunity. We will continue to offer workshops and experiences and town halls like that focus on things like courageous conversation and healing literacies and restorative justice between our two communities. And I think that you know, there's been a lot of focus on doing these things before we unify, which is important. But I also want to double and triple down on the idea that these are things that we will continue to do once we are unified. And the 21-22 school year is perhaps the most important year once we're unified to do this work together as a community, as a parent community, as a community of educators, and as a community of engaged community members and interested community members. And I want to personally invite anyone listening to this live or to this recorded that when those educational series comes out, whatever the topic, we need you, all of you, to come. This is a conversation that we have gone too long without having in our society, without having in our community. And I believe that the global pandemic and the police-demic that we are all currently holding up provides us with the opportunity of a lifetime to get uncomfortable and to learn and to figure out what it means to be in community with each other authentically in a way that we can see each other, that we can understand each other, that we can empathize with each other, that we can try to walk in each other's shoes. I think the greatest barrier to this work is an inability to empathize with each other, an inability to imagine what it's like to live someone else's life and walk in someone else's shoes. And I think this will provide us with a tremendous educational and healing opportunity for our community. And I know that both boards, whatever governance structure we end up with, are committed to continuing that work after unification.
And I just wanted to jump in and say, you know, for those of you who haven't come to the joint board study sessions, they are facilitated by a man named Dr. Omawali. And one of the things he said that has always stayed with me is that unification doesn't end when we unify the schools. It's an ongoing process. And the other thing that I think we all have to keep in mind is that we've got to build relationships with each other. And so it's about building relationships and building relationships. And so I think it's going to be an opportunity for all of us to do that, and also to take advantage of, you know, a lot of programming around race and equity training. I know there's one happening at Willow Creek this week. I know the boards are going to be doing it, and I think that those are all going to be great opportunities for us to come together in an emotional sense as a community.
Okay, another one for Dr. Garcia. The superintendent job has been kind of a revolving door for SMCSD. Are you planning to stick around?
Let's hope so.
Yes. I made a commitment to the board when I signed my contract that I would stay here as long as you would have me, or until we are one of the top performing schools and districts in the state. And I am unwavering in that commitment. As I said, you know, at the outset, both of these communities gave me a lot as a kid. And I've spent my whole career in Alameda County. And it was really a dream come true to be able to come home in a sense, and serve this community. And I'm not going anywhere. I will stay. I want to stay. The board extended my contract in June, another year. And I am really committed to seeing not only unification through, but like I said, making sure that this is one of the top schools in the state, if not the country, certainly in Marin County. And I will not rest and I will not go until that's true. I want everyone in this community to be able to point to our schools and our districts with a tremendous amount of pride and esteem and desire to attend and support. And I can almost touch it. I think we're very, very close to that. And I'm really excited for what we're even going to be able to accomplish this year. The fact that we have kids back in person when a lot of kids are still remaining in distance learning around the state, I think gives us an opportunity to mitigate some of that learning loss that happened last school year, and maybe even to mitigate some of that learning loss that's happened over the years due to systemic oppression and due to segregation. And, you know, I think a couple of the things that we're working on right now in terms of unification are incredibly important in seeing that through and making that be a reality post-COVID. The commitment to maintaining small class sizes is key. The commitment to ensuring that teachers have regular collaboration time is key. We have the opportunity to apply the best educational research in our community in a way that is really unprecedented in public school districts in our state and in our country. I'll leave you with a small anecdote. I had the opportunity several years ago to serve on a panel with former State Superintendent of Instruction, Delane Easton. Those of you that have been around a while will remember her. She was the superintendent of schools actually basically the entire time that I went to Marin County Public Schools. And when Delane was our state superintendent, this state was #1 in the country in educational funding. I think we're maybe 45th these days. And one of Delane's main contributions was actually state preschool. She brought in First Five. She brought in Head Start. She brought in state preschool. It hadn't existed prior to her tenure. And in order to do that, she went and she studied international models of state-run preschools. And one of the best ones in the world is France. And so she took a trip to Paris, and she was personally guided through the system by the French Minister of Education. And she said he was a classic Parisian. He never lost his veneer. He never lost his reservedness. He never showed emotion. He was always impeccably polite, except for at one point during the visit. And she made a comment. She was just blown away by the incredibly high level of the state preschools that they were running, that she was being toured around. And she said, wow, you must have some incredible educational researchers to do this. And that was the only time he lost his veneer. And he said, well, what do you mean we use American educational research? Are you telling me that you all don't even implement your own research? And sadly, that is the case across much of the K-12 system in this country. We have some of the best educational research in the world, and we don't implement it. And what we have before us here for this unified school is a golden opportunity to implement the best educational research in the world on class size, on enrichment, on social and emotional learning, on school climate, on teacher collaboration and curriculum development and academic rigor and critical thinking. And so I just want to invite all of us into leaning into and supporting that opportunity.
Thank you. That you pretty much just handled my last question also, which was well done. So in kind of wrapping things up, I'd like to also thank Diana Lopez, who is the branch manager at the Marin City Library and was helping with the waiting room and letting people in. So thank you, Diana, and I encourage everyone to visit us here for our curbside service at the Sausalito Library or at the Marin City Library. Give us a call. We'll place holds on items on the catalog and we'll have them ready for you to pick up. So thank you very much, Dr. Garcia. Very informative for us here in the 94965 community. And if you're up for it, we'd love to have you back after the plan comes out in December or January to provide us with an update. And I'm getting lots of thumbs up and thank yous through the chat window also. So before we say goodbye, is there anything else, any final words you'd like to leave us with?
Oh, I just want to thank you for the opportunity. It's such an unprecedented era. Any help spreading the message, anyone who's listening, invite some friends to watch the recording, share it on your Facebook page, like and share our Facebook page so that people can see it. I am committed to communicating clearly and transparently and keeping the community informed. I'd be happy to do this again. Maybe we should just sort of plan a quarterly thing as part of how we communicate and update the community and collaborate on all issues educational that pertain to students and families in the greater community in the 94965. And thanks for the opportunity and looking forward to more. And thank you for everybody listening, for your ongoing support of our students and our schools and our community.
Okay, and thank you, all of you who stuck with us all the way to the end, and keep an eye out for an update in another couple of months. So thank you, Dr. Garcia, thank you, Lexi, and we'll say good night.
My pleasure. Good night, everybody. Stay healthy out there.